Do you want to take our next story, V?
Jump in? Sure.
Yeah.
I found this to be super interesting. The Atheist Ireland is an Irish advocacy group, and they promote atheism and reason over superstition and supernaturalism, and try and make it so that the state doesn't support or finance or give any special treatment to religion. And this is over in Ireland, obviously. They've been fighting recently, this last year, for a change in the phrasing of the religion question in the 2021 Irish Census to better represent the growing number of religious nuns in the country. So they're concerned about, how it's going to be represented on paper if the question is phrased as it currently is. The old question, which is the one they were fighting against, is what is your religion? And that's a leading question.
Yeah.
Because it assumes that you have one and that it's the default. And even if you write in like, oh, I'm atheist, well, atheism isn't a religion, so it doesn't even really make sense. And in addition, the Central Statistics Office website says that the statistics used in the census are essential for planning educational provision, healthcare, employment, all of these things. And Atheist Ireland says that it's the practice of religion and not people's inner beliefs that's relevant to this. So the way that they would prefer it to be phrased is, do you practice a religion? Instead of, what religion are you? Because
that makes sense.
Right?
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. And then followed by, if so, what religion do you practice? So very simple, yes or no, do you practice religion? Super neutral. And it would actually give a more accurate figure. So what they're basically asking for is 4 things. That the question be located neutrally, away from questions on ethnic or cultural background and language, which I thought was interesting because we always group those things, even, here. But to put it in just a completely different spot, to take it away from the identity bit and more just about what do you do? What is your, how do you spend your time? They also want the question shouldn't assume the answer, so that the person answering the question has a religion. What's your religion? Oh, well, obviously, it's one of these. It should distinguish between religions and denominations, which I also thought was super interesting. So instead of having Christian, and then, you go down the list, Methodist, Lutheran, Episcopal, whatever.
That could get messy.
Right? No,
because there are so many different denominations.
And that's the final one, and I found this fascinating. So they did this study, and apparently if you use checkboxes and denominations, they bias results. And they figured this out in the 1990s, actually. So without a checkbox, the Irish census in 1991, right? Numbers.
You got very small font over there.
I do have very small font. Got to keep it on one page, guys. Okay. So without a checkbox, Methodists gradually decreased from over 6,000 in 1961 to about 5,000 in 1971, and then even farther down in 81 and 91. Okay. So without the checkbox, people just, stopped identifying as Methodist on the census. When given the checkbox back in 2002, it almost doubled to over 10,000. And that's an increase of 99% compared to a national increase in population of 11%. So the fact that the checkbox even exists as an option biases the response by a lot. And so their argument is that, okay, well, just ask a yes or no question. Don't put those checkboxes because that also influences whoever is asking or answering the question. So that's been on the table for about a year now. And actually, just as of this month, on the 11th, the new question is not great. They did change it a little bit to, what is your religion, if any? It's slightly better, kind of, sort of, but it also is a leading question and assumes that religion is the default. So they're not quite happy about it, but it has shifted at least a little bit.
There's that. It also changed the language so that it's not what religion are you, it's what is your religion.
Right, exactly.
Which is a step better, I would say. I mean, it's less like, how tall are you, and more, what is your height?
That's fair.
Because the second question, what is your height, doesn't make any sense because it's not a thing that you possess. Height is you. It's like,
yeah, it's a...
In the same way you wouldn't say, what favorite food are you? It's what is your favorite food? Your favorite food isn't part of your identity. Your height is something you can't run away from.
Or, you know, instead of maybe what is your political viewpoint or beliefs, it would be more like, how do you vote? It's the practical element of that and how it manifests in the world.
Yeah, generally it's like, what is your political affiliation? Are you a D? Or are you an R? Or are you an I?
Politically, what are you is a very different question than, how do you tend to vote?
Right, exactly. That's their argument. And they're also concerned that it's going to mask the growth, the tracking of the religious nuns in Ireland. Because of the way that it biases things.
Do they even need this question at all? I feel like it's unnecessary just by itself. Like, you don't... I understand why Pew would be doing a poll on people's religiosity, but does the census really need to be asking that?
I feel like it's an interesting question for Ireland specifically, considering the amount of religious tension that there is currently there. And especially because they, to my understanding, still place a lot of emphasis on, you know, we are Catholic as opposed to Northern Ireland, which is Protestant. For the most part, obviously not all of Ireland. But so I think that would be an interesting question to ask, not just here, but also there, because I feel like here it wouldn't make a lot of sense because we are so diverse in the kinds of viewpoints that we hold in the U.S. And I don't know if it's necessarily as much of a non-issue. Yeah,
well, I know that Ireland's been making some great strides in the last year or so.
They legalized abortion, I believe.
They got rid of their blasphemy law about 6 months ago or so. I remember we covered that here.
Yeah, there's a big backlash to the influence and activities of the Catholic Church in Ireland, given the effect of the influence and activities of the Catholic Church in Ireland. Immensely. That and the Brexit is still an open question.
Right.
And there's that Northern Irish border, which is less than 50 years ago, we were having religious warfare.
Exactly. Much less than 50 years ago. As many as she's 20. That was, It's a recent history.
Yeah.
So it is. I would say it is a pertinent question, which is why the religious nuns in that area need that representation and they need to be counted.
I think it also sends a signal because even if there's popular sentiment for something like an uprising or a revolution, only a minority of even people with that sentiment do anything with it, right? Like it's 2% of the French population at the time participated in the French Revolution, 10% of the Iranian population in the Iranian Revolution, and that was the largest one by proportion ever. So if people know that, well, okay, we have these very strong views, but society as a whole is mostly nuns or, casuals or whatever that are not big fans of like, no, we're a Catholic nation and we'll shoot you for it. That can be helpful.
Right. And I think that's what they were getting at with the original request, whereas like you can be a Catholic or a Protestant or any religion and not practice it and have it not interfere with the way you vote or the way you interact with other people or where you want the money to go. Yeah. Whereas saying what religion do you practice, if any, that implies a level of action, that implies a level of involvement to the point that, maybe they would want to vote a certain way or want these funds to be allocated in a certain way.
Yeah.
I think I just flipped, actually.
Really?
Yeah. Just like 5 minutes ago, I was thinking they shouldn't have this they shouldn't be asking about your religious affiliation at all. Mm-hmm. But this is a stepping stone. We need to change the language of this so that we can stand and be counted and recognized as
Right.
non-believers and recognized that we are a significant portion of the population and going forward from there, then they can, after they've, been counted and been shown to have, like, we have the numbers, we have some actual political power, then you can go in and take the next step and say, okay, asking about religion in a census, probably not appropriate.
Exactly.
I think it's a good step.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah.
And with that, high five, V. You changed a mind right here, live on the air. Shining example of open-mindedness right here at our center.
Thank you, Jamie. I appreciate that.
You are welcome.
That was very. I was like, no, they shouldn't be asking that. That's not appropriate.
Yeah.
But
No, you need equity before you can get equality.
Yeah.
And I think that that's kind of the same deal.
That's going to be a meme of you. I'm not sure whether you need equity before you can get equality.
yeah,
Let me
that's
say it
good.
into the camera. You
Yeah.
need equity before you get equality.
There we go.
Boom.
Well, thank you for that. That was very good.
Yeah, it was an interesting thing to follow the last couple of days.
Yeah, I like getting stuff from outside the states because there's plenty of atheist shows that cover news, and I try to not go with the same pool as everybody else.
The English language ones tend to be covering the United States.
Yeah.
It's a whole world out there, guys.
Yeah.
Right.
Although it's almost like the English-speaking country with the most religious shit to talk about.
Yeah, we have a lot of really legitimate shit to be pissed off about.
Right.
That's fair.
Yeah, although I'm looking at you, Australia. You might not think this. Look at your schools.